Marcellus Wiley in the building. I'm just going to wait for this camera. Oh, bam. Flag War winner for the day.
On paper, sir, it does look like you got me.
Really?
It looks like it on paper.
Look like they spent some paper on this suit right here. Emmanuel Acho looking sharp as always.
Dog.
Take this L today. All right, we got a lot to get into. 2 hours worth of it. So let's start with two of the top quarterbacks of all time, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. They have a huge matchup Sunday in Tampa on Fox. This is the third career game between the quarterbacks after splitting their only 2 meetings. Brady and Rodgers are both going to the Hall of Fame, but Brady leads with 6 Super Bowl titles compared to just 1 for Rodgers. But Rodgers has the highest passer rating of all time. So, Acho, is Aaron Rodgers actually a better quarterback than Tom Brady?
Man, first of all, shout out to us, Marcellus, because you and I, in the midst of all these Jordan-LeBron debates, we have forgone the debates about football and nails goats.
That's right.
So can we pay some homage to the football goats during football season? Aaron Rodgers is not a better quarterback than Tom Brady.
Hold on. That's not homage. That's a lie. You just lied to America after homage?
Aaron Rodgers is not. Okay. But I'm going to come out the gate with this. Yeah. I have my NFL quarterback criteria, and I've done it upon 3 abilities, if y'all can take a look at it. I chose NFL quarterback criteria. The first is availability, and you'll see ranking, then capability and win ability. The last one I created. The first one,
it sounds like all 3.
Availability. Okay. Aaron Rodgers, he's been available for 92% of his team snaps. That's 9.2%. Tom Brady, 9.4%. So Tom Brady wins as far as availability. Okay. Now, capability, that's up to the beholder. I played against them both, and as I look at it, Aaron Rodgers is a more physically capable quarterback than Tom Brady was at their peaks, regardless of how you want to look at it. Anybody who tells you otherwise is a liar. But the last one, Marcellus, is the differentiating factor, and that very simply is winnability. Tom Brady has been to 9 Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers has only been to 1. You can remove the full screen. We don't need to look at it. Let me just look at my dog, because you look good today. Let me pay you some attention.
Some homage.
Some homage, if you will. Aaron Rodgers, phenomenal quarterback, obviously has done a lot of great things. But as I look at those 3 primary criteria, then it has to be Tom Brady's the better quarterback of all time. Before I let you go and start spouting your lies, let me say this. Because I know you. I know you way too well.
You know me well.
We've decided, Marcellus, in sports that winning means something. Winning actually is the trump card. Winning, although it's not necessarily a physically tangible metric, it means something. Let's talk about the LeBron James and Michael Jordan debate. That's the one everybody knows. If you're watching this, you've sure had it at some point in your time. Let's look at the numbers. If we were just going off physical ability, LeBron James would unequivocally be better than Jordan. He has more points. He has more boards. He has more assists. But the reason that the argument is so strong for Michael Jordan as you look at it is because Jordan has more titles. If you just wanted to go off the fact that Aaron Rodgers is a better passer, Aaron Rodgers is more physically capable, you can make that same argument. That's the same argument people try to make for LeBron. But what is the trump card? What is the big joker? What is the draw 4? What is the royal flush? What is the blackjack in 21? It is winning titles, and that's what Tom Brady does better than anyone.
Emmanuel Acho.
Talk to me.
16 years difference in our experience on this planet. And you're about to hear why that matters. Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Tom Brady. I don't think there's any way you can look at that any differently. But let me just walk with you real quick. Because I think what is happening is a conflation. The conversation is not who's more accomplished. The conversation is who's better. Without making that distinction, you will be standing in quicksand. Quickly, you will drown. It's interesting that someone is in this conversation that only has 1 title, but is still keeping this conversation alive against someone who has 6 titles. You want to know why that conversation stays alive and is vibrant? It's because the guy with only 1 title is actually better than the guy with 6 titles. So let's see, why is he better than the guy with 6 titles? Well, let me give you some numbers before I start going into my opining fully. Full screen time, 37 years young. So we got to take them at the same time. And this is even before some of the decline years that some say and suggest about Tom Brady. Passing yards. Oh, I see you, Brady. Even though you see at the bottom an asterisk, 7 games remaining as a 36-year-old. But passing yards, we give the nod to Tom Brady. But in every other respect, yards per game as a starter, completion percentage, passing touchdowns, yards per attempt, Acho's favorite stat, passer rating, my favorite stat, it's not even a contest, it's Aaron Rodgers. But what happens in this conversation of conflation is people all of a sudden start counting rings. And you know what a ring really represents?
What's that?
The ultimate team achievement. And let's talk about the achievements of the team and separate it from the individual. Tom Brady was born in New England as a professional football player, as a sixth rounder. Kind of a mercy pick. I heard that in one of the podcasts talking about Tom Brady. Bill Belichick looks at the draft. He's like, why is Tom Brady still there? Pick 199. Take him. They're like, we have Drew Bledsoe. He's a $100 million quarterback. Whatever. He's more valuable than 199. But not more valuable than a first-round pick, a projected first overall pick, and Aaron Rodgers. So the evaluators already saw from hello that they're different. Then you go forward. Who did Tom Brady play with? It's not just about where you go. It's who were you with. The greatest coach of all time in Bill Belichick, and more importantly, 17 first-team All-Pros. You want to know how many first-team All-Pros Aaron Rodgers has played with in his career? Not 17, only 3. So not only are your surroundings better if you're Tom Brady, but you have the greatest coach, and then you're able to win and culminate that into team success. But individually, as an evaluator, Aaron Rodgers is still better.
This is why these conversations are so good between you and I, because we both do our homework. Here is the problems and the flaws in your logic. Again, when taking the GRE, when trying to get my master's, you have to spot the flaw in logic. So I'm well equipped to spot flaws in logic. You said that if we're not debating who's more accomplished.
No,
we're debating who's better. And you're right.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, Marcellus. Accomplishments are what make you better.
Oh,
Bill
really?
Yes.
Oh, you really fell for that one.
No,
Okay.
Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time. Why? Because he is the most accomplished coach of all time. Nick Saban, the greatest coach of all time, arguably, obviously. Why? Because he's the most accomplished coach of all time. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time, within reason. Why? Because he's the most within reason.
Within reason. Wait a second.
Here's why I say within reason. Here's why I say within reason. Because people.
What happened to the reason?
Because Robert Ory has 6.
No, Bill Russell. Bill Russell's on the same tier one.
Then MVPs. How about that? How about that?
But now we get
season MVPs.
Who has more MVPs? Tom Brady.
Here's my point. Accomplishments are what actually make you the greatest of all time. Because without accomplishments, Marcellus, now we're just drawing straws. Now that we're just simply saying, well, this is my personal opinion and it's my humble opinion. But if we're not drawing straws, we see that Tom Brady's been to more Pro Bowls. Tom Brady's been to has more All-Pros. Tom Brady more times a passing touchdown leader. Tom Brady actually has done everything Aaron Rodgers has done, just better. You cannot deduct accomplishments and arbitrarily try to say that this quarterback is better than that quarterback. Accomplishments are what delineate different people. Why do we say that, you know what, Russell Westbrook's a really good player, but he's not that great? Because he's never won it.
Who says he's not that great?
Well, but anybody, if you're talking about, is he top 5 all time?
Is Russell Wilson
is he
a
top
great
10
basketball player?
Is he top 10 all time? Is he top
I'm not
15 all
going
time?
there. I'm saying, is he a great basketball player? I'm not going to dive into that.
He's not LeBron James. It's Kevin Durant.
Who else is LeBron James? Michael Jordan?
Because he has 5 titles.
No.
Titles, accomplishments are what make you
Here we
great.
go. Okay, all right, so by your logic, I hate to go here, Julian Edelman is better than DeAndre Hopkins. Yes.
I'm glad you break that point.
No, you're not glad, because I'm actually countering what you're saying. Julio Jones, oh, sorry, Julian Edelman got you too as well. Like any position you want to go to, you don't just add it up. Barry Sanders, sorry, Emmitt Smith got you. Calm
Not all
down.
positions.
Okay, not all positions. I'm glad another qualifier has just come out of your mouth. And I'm going to give you another one. Acho, how many degrees do you have?
2.
2. I only have 1, but I'm smarter. It don't matter how many times you go back. Look, I got 2 degrees. And you have 2 titles. I have 1. Guess what? Look at me. Look at you. Listen to me. Listen. You know, I'm joking, kind of. All right, so here's the thing. When you look at these situations, I'm being an evaluator. And I know that it's hard for people to do this, but that's why they have Pro Bowls and All-Star games and All-Pros, etc. Because that's the closest we have to seeing individual greatness. Once you climb into the playoffs, once you get into that scope, things change. You know what changes? All of a sudden, it's about who's around you. How does the other facets of your game, other facets of your team come into play? So that's where you lose me. Once you get into playoff success and team success, that's not the same conversation we're having right now.
It is, because you have to remember, who is the biggest conduit to team success on the football field? The quarterback. He is the biggest conduit. The best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Aaron Rodgers, team's undefeated. Russell Wilson, team's undefeated. Patrick Mahomes, team has 1 loss. The best quarterbacks win the most games. Who are the worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now? Daniel Jones, team hasn't won. Sam Darnold, team hasn't won,
Carson
and then
Wentz?
he got hurt. Carson Wentz is playing the worst, and his team has one win.
But that's your guy.
Sure, he's my guy, but he's still playing bad right now.
Okay,
All that to say is quarterbacks are a conduit of team success.
Yeah, but they're a conduit, I give you that. But they're more of a coincidence than you are giving it credit to. You're trying to make it causation or correlation.
It is.
You ready for this?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, 10 wins, 8 losses. You want to know what the defense did in those 8 losses? Gave up an average of 36 points per game in those 8 losses. Think about it. You're Aaron Rodgers, and you're like, we gave up at least 36, and that's why we lost 8 games. In Tom Brady's 41 career playoff games, you know how many times his team, his defense has given up 36 points or more? Only twice. Imagine being in a scenario as the quarterback where, one, you're going to lose games because your defense is just letting it go, or you're in a game where your defense is keeping you intact. With all those all-pros, with that defense, with that coach, is why you have the ultimate title team success with Brady that you don't have with Aaron Rodgers.
So I will give you that, because I'm not so ignorant as to come up here and say, well, the defense doesn't matter. I know that in Tom Brady, in all but one of his titles, he has a top 10 scoring. Tom Brady's defense was elite. But here's what we can't do. We can't say that Tom Brady played with X amount of all-pros and Aaron Rodgers only played with so many. Here's why. Your quarterback helps make you an all-pro.
But not on defense, but I give you that.
But I know, people look at this and be like, man, Tom Brady's played with Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman is Julian Edelman because of Tom Brady. Let's make no bones about it. Now, yes, now that Julian Edelman has established himself and we've seen what he can do, he's having some success with Cam Newton, but he did cost Cam Newton a couple interceptions or an interception with some drops. But Julian Edelman is Julian Edelman because of Tom Brady. James White, great running back, catching the ball out the backfield. Who he is because of Tom Brady. Deion Lewis, who he is because of Tom Brady. So I can't use that as a knock on these guys. Again, as we look at basketball and we look at things, LeBron James has elevated players to who they are. Tristan Thompson comes on our network every week. He knows he got the bag because of LeBron James. And so I'm not going to use that to knock Tom Brady's greatness. I actually would use that to elevate his greatness.
I'll hold your hand with you as far as you want to. Until you get to a point where you say Tom Brady's greater than someone else. Let's use the Acho way of playing football, which is sometimes fantasy, which you say, if these two were to switch places. And I know you do that a lot, and I push back, but I just want you to hear yourself. If Aaron Rodgers were in New England with Belichick and those defenses. Remember, Aaron Rodgers only had a top 10 defense 3 times, scoring defense 3 times in his career. Only 3 times versus 20 times for Tom Brady. If Aaron Rodgers were in New England and Tom Brady were in Green Bay, good Lord, I could just imagine what that would look like in disparity.
So I like the hypothetical game.
I don't, but
I know you don't. I know you don't, but I'm a hypothetical guy. Here's why I like the hypothetical game. Because I would be hard-pressed to believe that Aaron Rodgers would go to 10 or more. Just because that sounds like, that's almost outlandish, right? It's outlandish that Tom Brady went to 9.
Okay.
You
can't say it and believe it. You got to see it to believe it.
It's outlandish that Tom Brady went to 9. So to me, it would, even if you put Aaron Rodgers on those Packers teams, which I love doing this, I know you don't, but to me it would be outlandish to think that Aaron Rodgers would go to 10. But if you put Tom Brady on those Packers teams, remember, Tom Brady won the MVP in 2010, the year Aaron Rodgers won the title. So I still think if you put Tom Brady on those Packers teams, he would have a Super Bowl for you, at least one, the same one that Aaron Rodgers has. So even if you play my fantasy land game, I still think Tom Brady comes out on top.
But you don't think that they were in the same situations because you, week after week, continue to condemn Mike McCarthy. Oh, Mike McCarthy can't coach. McCarthy, right?
That's true.
And guess who Aaron Rodgers had?
That's true. I'll give you.
Mike McCarthy with bad defenses and less in terms of all-around talent. So that's when I extract from all of that, because I'm doing that calculus. And I know this is not the barbershop conversation to have. It's too deep. It's like, damn it, just fade me up and let me go, bro. I don't want to hear all this. But being real, let me ask you as we wind this down, let me ask you this. Better.
Because I do agree with you that Aaron Rodgers is the better tangible quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
But the issue at hand is, do you not factor winning into quarterbacking? Because I was wrestling for this topic and I was like, you know what? Marcellus is low-key right. Like, just off talent alone, Aaron Rodgers is better. But then you got to realize winning the Super Bowl has to count for something.
It does. It counts for something. It just can't count for everything. And it can't trump you over other players who are comparable in the tangibles and also comparable in the numbers. That's where we lose it. get into the playoffs and having the ultimate success. I love you, Julian Edelman, but dare you ever look at DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, and others and think you're damn better. Coming up at the top of the hour, Jerry Jones sounds like he wants Dak Prescott in Dallas for the long run. We'll tell you if we're buying Dak as their quarterback of the future. But first, Le'Veon Bell was released by the winless Jets, but Adam Gase is still there. Huh? We'll tell you if we have an issue with New York sticking with their coach. Next, speak for yourself.
Welcome back to Speak for Yourself, presented by Hyundai. Let's talk about the Jets, who released Le'Veon Bell yesterday after less than 2 seasons. Bell called out his lack of touches after Sunday's loss on social media, and he complained to head coach Adam Gase. A few months ago, former Jet Jamal Adams also ripped head coach Gase before he was traded, saying he was, quote, not the right leader. The Jets are now 0-5 this season, but Gase somehow still has a job. First things first, shout out to Le'Veon Bell, bro. He collected $28 million in 18 games.
Damn.
$28 million.
$28 million, 28 rushing yards total. Dude out here.
Well, let's get to it, Marcellus.
Yeah, please.
Do you have an issue with the Jets sticking with Adam Gase amidst all their struggles?
You know I do. A tremendous issue with Adam Gase surviving this when key player, top player after top player find themselves outside the New York Jets organization. Why Adam Gase? Like, did you not watch him coach in Miami? He was a losing coach in Miami. And then you get him to the Jets, and in his first season, he goes 7-9. And you say, we're going somewhere. You ain't going nowhere, brother. And now you look at him 0-5, 32nd ranked offense, 30th in points scoring on defense. This is a horrible situation. And now it's going to be the 10th consecutive year the Jets are not in the playoffs, but they continue to just stay pat through this futility. Adam Gase needs to go. And I understand the mantra of you can't fire all the players, so, you know, you got to fire the coach. Yeah, that should ring true right now. Why is it now that we're going to survive and keep the coach alive and let the players walk? The jockey is the wrong jockey for this situation. This needs to be about the horses that they continue to let go. You look at Adam Gase, he's used up his 9 lives already in his 5 seasons. I don't see him as a capable head coach in our league, and I don't understand why the Jets do.
Marcellus, I had to think about this topic, and as you talking, my blood is boiling just thinking about Adam Gase. So let me start off like this. You know what? Get my single, please. Get my single. I got to talk to the people.
Ooh, looking good.
Just because you have the title does not mean you have the qualifications.
Okay.
Just because you have the title doesn't mean you have the qualifications. Growing up, I thought about parents in general, my parents, and because they're called parents, you assume that they're perfect. They have supernatural abilities, when in fact, they just had some kids, making them parents. Living now in L.A., in Hollywood, navigating these streets, you think of actors and actresses. Oh, they have some superhuman innate ability to put on roles. No, they're just people that play people or things. They don't have some superhuman power. Just because Adam Gase has been called head coach, we think that he has earned the right or has the qualification to be a head coach. But just because he got the title doesn't mean you have the qualifications. Let's look at the Adam Gase effect. I'm just going to bring up 3 notable players that you all know. Ryan Tannehill under Adam Gase. 13-11 record. Y'all can see everything else. Without Adam Gase, 11-3 record. Devontae Parker under Adam Gase, 12.6 yards of reception, 6 touchdowns in 39 games. Without Adam Gase, 16 yards of reception, 14 touchdowns in 35 games. Jarvis Landry with Adam Gase, 10.3 yards of reception. Without Adam Gase, 13 yards of reception, and top 3 overall pick, Sam Darnold under Adam Gase. He's seeing ghosts. I say this to say Adam Gase is quite literally dismantling a franchise. He is Bill O'Brien on steroids. He's a better Bill O'Brien than Bill O'Brien.
Well, Bill O'Brien won at least.
At least Bill O'Brien won.
At least he won.
So my first lap, I got to get that out of my chest. My second lap, I'm going to come with a little bit more ammo.
Well, look, you don't need any more ammo. Just watch Adam Gase coach, and you're like, all right, that's enough ammunition. Low-key Jeff Fisher right now. Now, Jeff Fisher used to be the dude when I was playing.
Throw me a oop, because I got some Jeff Fisher notes.
Jared Goff is like, thank God Jeff Fisher left.
Since Marcellus went here, I got to piggyback off my dog. I was going to save him, Marcellus, but but you
some?
said the name and I'm triggered. Under Jeff Fisher, Jared Goff was 0-4. He actually finished that season 0-7. Within 2 calendar years, Jared Goff was in a Super Bowl. Under Jeff Fisher, Nick Foles was 4-7. Within 2 calendar years, Nick Foles was a Super Bowl MVP and had the best 3-game stretch in the playoffs we've seen in modern history. Under Jeff Fisher, Case Keenum was 7-7. Within 2 calendar years, he was 11-3 under the Minnesota Vikings. Stop blaming players when it's a coaching problem.
And stop interrupting me when I bring up Jeff Fisher. Because I wasn't going to say none of that. He over here like, don't you steal my notes. I was up early this morning. Add Todd Gurley to that list, too, as well. Oh, Todd Gurley was like, thank God, get rid of Jeff Fisher. That said, we used to call Jeff Fisher when 8-8 is great. And that's when 8-8 is great. And Adam Gase would love to be 8-8 right now. This is a situation I had to dig a little deeper in because we have some counting numbers. We have some real-life players that obviously going to support our argument of why we don't like Adam Gase. But a little more digging finds that there may be a little relationship love that's protecting him in terms of, remember the rumors that Peyton Manning was going to become the general manager of the Jets? Quickly denied by Peyton Manning. How dare you? But Peyton Manning didn't deny that he made a phone call to the owner, Woody Johnson. And on that phone call, he called him on a Tuesday night. The next day, guess who was hired? Adam Gase. Who's Adam Gase? His former quarterback coach and offensive coordinator when Peyton Manning was in Denver. So he's riding past success. And I'm not picking on Jeff Fisher. I like Jeff Fisher. That's my dog. But you can ride past success amazingly as a coach. But as a player, the evaluation process is much more hypercritical. I need that lens that they look at players through to look at these coaches through as well.
I think that where there's smoke, there's fire. How do you not read into things, Marcellus, when Jamal Adams says, I don't think he's the right leader for the organization? How do you not read into things when Kelechi Osemele, at one point in time, the highest paid offensive guard, is like, yo, they're doing things wrong here. Now Kelechi Osemele starting for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's rolling. Where there is smoke, you have to understand there's fire. I've played with some coaches. I'm sure you have as well. I played with a coach in Philly who didn't realize you need talent. You know, some coaches.
What are you talking about? This is the wrong show to be up here trying to hide. You say his name with his chest. My former coach.
Your former coach.
Chip Kelly.
I played with Chip.
That's my guy.
And Chip always believed culture can beat talent. That was his philosophy. Culture can beat talent. And I'm like, you know what? I'm with you to a point. Talented culture can beat talent, but talentless culture don't got a shot. Marcellus, there was an offseason. We trade LaShawn McCoy. We trade Deshaun Jackson. I believe we traded him. We didn't let him walk. Then we let Jeremy Maclin walk. I'm like, talent evaluators, they spend their whole career trying to acquire Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, Jeremy Maclin, and we let all them dudes go because Chip was under the premonition that culture can beat talent. Well, we go from 10-6 to 6-10 within 1 calendar year. That's the problem some of these coaches make. That's how you can see a Bill O'Brien trading a DeAndre Hopkins. That's how you can see a Adam Gase. Think about this, Marcellus. How you inherit a roster with Jamal Adams, people are already claiming him to be a future Hall of Famer. A Sam Darnold, number 3 overall pick. Le'Veon Bell, who was the best running back in the league prior to taking that year off. A top-tier offensive lineman across the board. And you look up, and the whole cupboard is empty. It's just, you got to start to look at the coach.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Him having his issues in Miami and disagreements with Stephen Ross and finally having to leave Miami should have been a warning sign to the Jets. But then the Jets actually put him in a situation where when Le'Veon Bell is there, he's like, I didn't want Le'Veon Bell. Remember from the beginning, they had issues because that's not my guy. And he coached Le'Veon Bell like he wasn't his guy. Like he took it personally. Instead of extracting all the ability out of a franchise player, you decide to just make a point out of Le'Veon Bell. So like you were talking about in culture, it's so funny. People always say practice makes perfect. And then they say, no. Perfect practice makes perfect. Like you still have to go out there and work through the process, relationships, and motivating these players to play up to their abilities. Seems like Adam Gase has.
Let me ask you something, because you played longer than I and played with more grace than I did. Do you ever believe there's a point in which you run off a star player, or do you say he's a star player, we have to make it work, outside of hyperbolic situations like Antonio Brown where, you know, they're extenuating circumstances?
Well, yeah, look, the star player has to run himself out unless it's something that is cancerous, that's contagious, that's going to hurt others. Then you start to look at it, that relationship between what's his production and what is he doing counter to that in terms of personality and hurting our team. But I give it to you like all the coaches say. If a bad player is asleep in our meeting room, cut them. If a good player is sleeping in our meeting room, wake them up. That's how I look at culture and stuff.
Here's what I know. What I look at is this. The Jets rank last in points per game. They rank last in points differential, and they rank 31st in total offense. And this is supposed to be under an offensive genius in Adam Gase. Coming up. Yep. The GOAT debate is back, but a different sport. We'll tell you if LeBron can tie Jordan with 6 titles before he retires. That's next. Speak for yourself. Presented by Hyundai.
Welcome back to Speak for Yourself, presented by Hyundai. Let's head to the NBA, where LeBron James won his 4th title just a few days ago. The King is inching closer to Michael Jordan, who has 6 trophies on his resume. LeBron is already in the GOAT conversation, but he had this to say about the ongoing debate. Quote, "The debates can happen. Y'all can talk about it. I'll talk about it with my guys when we're at home, our friends and all that stuff. But I'm not going to give it to y'all. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to fall for it. You guys know how much I love Michael Jordan. I wear the number 23 because of Michael Jordan. When I first got my first pair of Jordans, you couldn't tell me nothing. Nah, I chose. Can LeBron get 6 titles before he retires? Oh!
Marcellus, I hate your LeBron voice.
Why do you hate my voice?
It's not that deep. LeBron's voice isn't that deep.
It's not that high.
It's not. No, it's not. Okay, I'm still maturing.
Okay. Youngster. Man.
I hope LeBron catches Jordan.
No, we ain't getting paid on no hope. What you got? Did you prepare for this? You used it all up on Adam Gase. Prepare for this topic.
Okay, bro. Let me say it with my chest.
Okay.
LeBron James can and will catch.
Can and will?
He can and he will. He'll catch 6 titles and he'll catch Jordan. He's going to have to go to 3. Because he's not going to win them all. What we know about LeBron is he can get there. We also know about LeBron is he ain't going to get them all. I'm a LeBron fan, I'm a LeBron stan, and I'm also a realist. That's not going to happen. I think he'll get 2 out of 3. How I see it playing out is very simple. They go again next year, they win again next year. I think they go back-to-back. I don't think they go the following year, so LeBron is going to have to get him one at age 38. 3 years from now. He's going to get 2 more. He's going to go 3 more times, but he has to get him one, not necessarily that following year. He's not going to three-peat. We've seen a three-peat in modern history 3 times. Jordan, Kobe, Shaq. I don't think we see it again. League is too stacked. What I do think we see is LeBron stealing 1 more with AD and then making something shake. Here's why I think this can happen. I look at history, and I look at Kareem. Kareem at one point in time averaged 35 points in a season. At one point in time, Kareem averaged 17 boards in a season. Damn. But when he got his last one, 1988, at the age of 40, he only averaged 14 and 7. Why? Because he had Magic. Now, Magic didn't win the MVP that season, but he had won the MVP 3 times in a 4-year span. AD is going to get into that role of being the leader. But who else did Kareem have? They had Worthy. They had Byron Scott. They had other dogs.
Yeah.
Here's my point. AD and LeBron need to steal 1 more this coming season. I say steal because it's going to be like that. You got to be like a thief in the night. Okay, Warriors, don't see me. Okay, Nets, don't see me. I'm just going to come in and get it. But then I think they're going to have to find that 3rd piece, like Tim Duncan, 2014, had Kawhi. Tim Duncan was old by then. Tim Duncan averaged 15 and 9. By Tim Duncan standards, he was falling off. Tim Duncan usually averaged about 23 and 11. He was old by then, but they had another piece, a young budding star in Kawhi, who they actually leveraged George Hill for. I think Kuzma's that piece you're going to have to leverage eventually. But I do think LeBron can catch Jordan. I think he gets 2 out of 3.
I think he definitely catches Michael Jordan, not to even fence ride. And I know people are like, what? You giving the Lakers props? Damn right, because I'm always going to tell the truth. And in this situation, I'm projecting LeBron James plays at this level till the age of 40, minimum. This age, you know why? And it's partly what you said. And I think in those 5 years, 4 or 5 years, he's going to get 2. And the reason is the switcheroo is already in effect. In terms of transition of power.
Yep, that's good.
AD led LeBron in all categories except what? Assists. And so basically LeBron like, yeah, let me lead the one that gives you all of the other categories to beat me in. The switcheroo's in effect. This is going to be the first time in LeBron James' career in his wizard years as MJ had, where he's going to actually defer and pick his spots. You talked about it yesterday. How does LeBron James load manage? He does it with pace. He does it with distance from shooting. He doesn't do it in like, I'm going to tap out the game. He just, also they had a metric where they showed he was the slowest competitor in the playoffs 2 years ago. So this is a guy who knows how to manage it upstairs. But what's going to happen in those next 4 or 5 years, in those 2 championships? That transition of power. AD becomes Batman. Now you have LeBron James as Robin riding that. And why do I know this is actually in effect beyond the counting numbers? Psychologically, LeBron is already talking different. LeBron James won the 2016 championship, down 3-1 against the Warriors, couldn't wait to find someone to say, I think I'm the greatest of all time. I'm the GOAT. LeBron James wins this NBA championship. What does he say right after it? Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to have that conversation. Wait a minute. You brought the conversation up last time you were in this position. Now you don't want to have it. You know why? Because the transition of power is in effect, and he wants us to make the argument for him because he already knows he's in it. Let's bring in somebody who can say a thing or two about the NBA, our Fox NBA analyst, Slick Rick the Bucher. Slick Rick, can LeBron get 6 titles before he retires?
Can he? Yes. Is it possible? Yes. It's also possible, Marcellus, that your hair could come back or that I could actually compete with Acho when it comes to a suit game. But is it likely? Is it realistic? Is it something that is realistic enough for us to talk about? No, it's not.
Wow.
Come on, guys.
Wow.
You gave all the evidence necessary to say why this isn't realistic, especially you, Acho. You were making such a great case, and then you go, that's why I think it's going to happen. I'm like, well, here's the reality. We're asking, and this is what I do appreciate, Acho, is that you pointed out, like, it's not going to be a three-peat, all right? That's because we've never seen that. But we've also never seen him win 3 championships in 4 years. Not even in his prime was he able to do that. And now you're suggesting that he's going to be able to do that at this late age. I understand where you guys are at. We're all in the glow of what LeBron just did and what the Lakers just did. But I can't ignore the fact that, number one, it was so unlikely, and they were unusual circumstances. And you talk about stealing championships, and while I will not diminish what they did, it does feel like they stole this one because the circumstances changed and they adjusted best to them. Can I expect that that is going to happen again 2 more times? No, I realistically can't. And by the way, we're talking about like trading out additional pieces in order to bolster the crew around him. You're also assuming Anthony Davis, who has demonstrated a, let's say, inability to stay healthy on a regular basis, is suddenly going to drink from the same fountain of youth. I'm not sure that I can count on any of those things. So as much as I love to be an optimist and say, yes, anything is possible, I just look at this and I feel as if this is just a sneaky way to pull back into the GOAT conversation and suggest that there's a possibility that LeBron can indeed surpass Michael Jordan.
Slick, let me say why I disagree with you, because you have argued that that LeBron couldn't even accomplish certain feats in his prime. Who's to say that LeBron is not in his prime? Because if you're looking at it in a lazy approach or the low-hanging fruit, I won't call you lazy, Slick. I respect you too much. If you're looking at it simply saying his athletic prime, which based on a human anatomy is for males is 26, then sure, you could argue that LeBron is out of his prime. But if you're taking in all accounts of what makes a great athlete, if you're talking about the physical, if you're talking about the mental, if you're talking about the psychological, then I would argue and bump what I say. LeBron said it himself that this LeBron would dominate 27-year-old LeBron. LeBron said that to Rachel Nichols immediately after the game. Rondo said yesterday, the discipline, the work he puts in daily, his regimen and how much he invests in his body, he has arguably the best trainer of all time. So, Slick, if we make the assumption, the wrong assumption, that LeBron is past his prime, then sure, I could concede to you, I could concede defeat. But if just maybe LeBron is actually in his overall prime of basketball player, not how high he can jump, not how fast he can run, not how strong he can dunk, but if he's in his overall prime, then who's to say he can't actually do this?
Strong.
The late Kobe Bryant would say that, because who was more disciplined? Who was able to execute even when his athleticism started to go? It was Kobe Bryant. And when did that suddenly dramatically turn? When he went from 35 to 36.
But Slick, he got hurt.
Right on
he got
the precipice that we see LeBron
He got
James
hurt,
right now.
though, Slick. That's the difference. If LeBron would have got hurt again this year, I would be like, you know what, Slick, you're right. But Kobe, was it not the elbow first, and then the Achilles, and then the shoulder?
It was a variety of things.
Everything.
But here's the thing. But you can't separate that from the fact that he played so much in the NBA and was at a certain age where he started to break down.
Fair.
So I just look at that. But here's ultimately the other part is you guys have incorrectly stated there's going to be a transition of power. And why are we having this conversation? Because we're talking about, can he surpass Jordan? That was what Kobe wanted to do. And he got close, and then his body broke down, and he couldn't get there. But you're suggesting that Anthony Davis is going to take the mantle, and thereby LeBron is going to pick up a couple more championships. Well, then the dynamic has changed, because the one thing we can say about Michael Jordan on all 6 championship teams is that he was the best player on that team. The reason we don't talk about Kareem is because for his 6 championships, he was the only finals MVP twice. So I agree with you in that LeBron could conceivably win 6 championships. Will he win 6 championships as the best player on the team? That's where you lose me.
Well, he has me, and I'm going to go out there and say a 27-year-old AD is not even close to exiting his prime, and working with LeBron James will allow him to prolong whatever that prime looks like. And I'll talk about prime in a second. But let's look at LeBron James in terms of why this transition of power with AD is going to work better than anybody else. Because you got to remember when 07, LeBron didn't even have a dynamic duo. So that championship, let's throw it out. Then when he gets to Miami, despite the championship parade and them having all of the fun and festivities, Dwayne Wade, as soon as he met LeBron James, started his decline from hello. And he started to decline to a point where after 4 years and that loss, the last one to the San Antonio Spurs, LeBron looked over back at home in Cleveland and said, Kyrie Irving's there. He's a younger Dwayne Wade, and he ain't declining. So you know what? Let me go over there. Now you got you a duo. Then you bring Kevin Love, thinking you got a big 3. But then injuries started to happen. Kyrie Irving missing the finals, basically. And then the bickering and the fight for power and credit, all of that. But now you got AD and LeBron. And this is a smooth transition in terms of transition of power. And that's why I think it's going to work. One, because LeBron is not out of his prime yet. Acho talked about it. Howie Long broke this down a long time ago, and I love Howie Long for breaking this down. He said, when you start your career, there are 2 elevators. One's at the top, which is your physical one, and one's at the bottom, which is your mental one. And then they're doing this your entire career. Because physically, you're not going to get that much better. If better at all, then you start to get to this place where, boom, that is your prime. Mentally and physically, you are in the same place. What does that mean? Physically, you're still capable to run, jump, do all the things you can with your athletic ability. But mentally, everything is slowed down. You have such clarity. You are a coach on the court yourself. And that's where LeBron James still is. And AD is now being introduced to that formula. Those 2 together, man, I don't see this ending anytime soon. Coming up, Russell Wilson is putting everyone on notice that he wants to be named MVP. We'll tell you if he's too concerned about the hardware next. Speak for yourself, presented by Hyundai. But they ain't winning next.
Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Time to talk about Russell Wilson. He's having a career year, a league-leading 19 touchdown passes. He is the reason why the Seahawks are a perfect 5-0, their best start in team history. But Russ has never received an MVP vote. He is the current frontrunner, however, and he made his thoughts very clear yesterday, saying, quote, I don't really want a vote. I want to be able to win the whole thing. I hear you, Russ, say it with your chest. But Marcellus, we gonna say it too. What are you doing?
My goodies.
What are you?
You said it with your chest, and then my goodies came on in my head. Oh, sorry.
Sierra's my goodies? And that's what you was doing this year?
You don't remember that? Don't go out with me,
Man,
ever.
Marcellus, quit dancing and give me the real.
Okay.
Do you think that Russell Wilson is too concerned with winning MVP?
No, he's not too concerned with it. How, Sway? Like, I'm just answering a question. Y'all asked me about being snubbed in the past. Context matters.
Yep.
And he answered that. He answered it brilliantly, actually, talking about, oh, you know what? I don't want just a vote. I want to win it all. If we're going to do it, let's do the damn thing. And that's what I want from Russell Wilson. I want from any competitor. The best version of you is the best for our team. You know, the best version of me is the best for us, Acho, as we speak for yourself, as we do this show. You know what I'm saying? How can now me maximizing my abilities, my talents, my production turn into a bad thing? Because if you think about it, there are no bad teams that an MVP will come from. You're guaranteed success if you're an MVP. Don't believe me? Don't believe me. I see your face over there. Full screen time, most valuable winners. And none of these guys are bad players. And more importantly, none of them are bad losing teams. Detroit Lions is close, though, damn it. You're lucky you had Barry Sanders. But if you look at it all the way through everywhere else, 10-6 is 11-5, and then some shortened seasons because of injury, but still winning. That's the point. Russell Wilson is keeping in mind winning as he's driving through an MVP championship and title. Those two things go together for Russell Wilson.
I think you were mostly right. Let me tell you what's really going on here. I think Russell Wilson, again, having a little PTSD. What do I mean? 2015, Russell Wilson, he thought he should have won MVP. Here's why. Let's look at the 2015 MVP race. Russell Wilson loses to Super Cam at that time. Cam Newton shows up, but Russ has more passing yards. Russ had a higher completion percentage significantly. Russ had one less touchdown, but less interceptions. The difference, obviously, Cam got him in rushing touchdowns. Cam's team was 15 and run. Russ's was 10-6. Russ is like, yo, I should have at least got a vote that year.
I'll give you
at least one vote. So now Marcellus Russ is like, uh-oh, hold on now. Is the same thing about to happen? Look at Russ and Rodgers. Let's look at that full screen. Russell Wilson realizes, I got to start campaigning because Rodgers is matching me in passing yards. He's matching me in completion percentage. He's down on touchdowns, but the Packers have played one less game. He's matching me in passer rating. He's seeing it, and he's like, this is too close. I must start campaigning. But here's my fear, and here's where I got to poke back on you.
Let me hear.
Don't you think there comes a point where Russ's individual success can be as a detriment to the team? Why I asked you that? I'm sure you played with some pass rushers, Marcel. This is why I like talking to you. You played a game. You played it well. You played with some pass rushers that are like, I got to go get me a sack. I got to go get me a sack. And when they do that, they run up the field and they get burned by the draw. Or they go inside on a pass rush move and they give up contain. Hint, J.J. Watt does this a lot for the Texans. Watch the tape. You got guys that are like, man, I got to go make a play. And in making a play, they sabotage the defense. I'm not saying Russ is going to do that, but I'm a little concerned about that happening. How are you not?
I'm not, because if anybody has it in their mindset that they even think they could be MVP, I am pouring gas on that flame. He's taking MVP Boulevard on the way to Super Bowl Street. That's his journey. He's like, all right, I'm going to ride this MVP, and then guess what? Pay dirt. Team success, ultimate championship. He's not going to rob them because it's a little different when you're playing quarterback and you're thinking, man, I need to pad my stats. Let me throw another touchdown. Yeah, please do it. Throw another touchdown. Oh, man, you know what I should do? Man, I should take off and run, extend this play, and then run into the end zone. Yeah, you actually should do this. Like, I don't see anything that, if you want to say he mashes the gas, goes a little too hard, how it could come back to bite them. So this is a Russell Wilson who has been snubbed. As you talk about those 3 years where he really had a chance. It was 2015, then it was Patrick Mahomes' year, and it was Lamar Jackson year. Like, he's losing to historic campaigns from one other guy. So right now, as I told you a couple weeks ago, I think Aaron Rodgers has the greater chance of winning this because Aaron Rodgers will not relent. He will not let up. And Russell Wilson has a way of finding a plateau and peaking a little too early in these conversations. So all that said, this doesn't hurt us as a team. Russell Wilson playing amazing is the only thing we can do. Why? Our defense is on pace to give up the most yards in NFL history. They're going to need MVP Russ to even keep pace.
Here is where I'm concerned, and it's because I'm a pessimist, I'll admit it. I like let Russ cook, but if I am in that locker room, not even if I'm in the locker room, if I am just watching, if I'm a fan, if I'm in the vicinity of it, I'm all like, when have we ever heard an MVP have to campaign this much? There's kind of a saying, if you have to tell me, maybe it doesn't really exist. Like, why is Russ saying it so much to the point where it's like, yo, what's really good? You're not walking down the street like, yeah, I host, speak for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm that host, I'm that guy. No, it's like, if I have to say it to you, if I have to tell you how good I am, what's the problem?
Right.
There's something where I'm like, There's something a little strange here.
No, I'm not there. Look, one, it's not a monologue. He didn't go up there, ooh, I've been snubbed. It's dangerous. Let me cook. He didn't do that. In the conversation with Russell Wilson, right now, you can't poke holes in this game. You can't poke holes in this team, at least offensively you can't. And then you have to have a conversation that's grander. Russell Wilson, you're here again. This is the 4th time we've seen you as an MVP candidate front runner, but you're 0-3. Kind of how Steve Young felt once he got his opportunity to finally win the Super Bowl. He said, the gorilla's off my back. Why? Because every conversation before then was like, hey, Montana was doing it. When you going to do it? And he finally got that opportunity and succeeded. I think this is all we're really going through, is that the conversation is so much about what Russell Wilson hasn't done in this MVP consideration, but finally it looks like he's going to do it. Will he finally overcome it? Before we get to break, don't forget, there's a special $1 million free-to-play Super 6 contest this week. All you have to do is correctly predict the outcome of 6 NFL games. So make sure you get your picks in before kickoff Sunday for your chance to be a millionaire. And for top stories, scores, and more, go to the Fox Sports app.
Oh, God, not
Coming up in our big story, you better stop messing with Big Usher. It sounds like Jerry Jones wants Dak Prescott in Dallas for a long time.
Does it?
Well, we'll tell you if we're buying. He's the quarterback of the future. Next, speak for yourself. Stop doubting us. Stop. You're watching Speak for Yourself, presented by Hyundai. Marcelo Swiley here. Emmanuel Acho.
My dog, you won Swag Wars today, at least on the eye test. We're going to let the people tell us when y'all vote on social.
Okay, cut that film. Play it every single day, because that's just how I'm going to roll every day. All right, let's talk about Dak Prescott in our big story. He's out for the year after having surgery on his ankle. Dak was playing under the franchise tag, leading to questions about his long-term status in Dallas. Cowboys executive Stephen Jones said earlier this week that Dak is their future. Jerry Jones shared his own thoughts on Dak's contract situation yesterday. Listen to Jerry.
We've got to be reminded that to have a team that we've got to really manage how we dole out our resources. Dak is deserving of anything you want to put on a piece of paper. Relatively speaking, he's deserving of that. And if you evaluate what he can do to help us win championships, you can see that it's there. And plus, he's a leader at the premier leader spot. We've got to make it work.
Acho, you buying the Cowboys view Dak as their quarterback of the future like I am?
I'm not, sir. Here's why. Most of y'all listened to that, and you checked out after you heard what you want to hear. That's what we do in our society now, right, Marcellus? We listen not to hear the truth, but we listen to hear what we want to hear. Dak is the future of our team. Dak is deserving of anything you put on paper. Relatively speaking.
King.
That's the operative words there. Relatively speaking.
Yes.
What is Dak and who is Dak a relative of? Not a relative of Lamar Jackson. Not a relative of Patrick Mahomes. That's the problem. You could argue he's a relative of Deshaun Watson. You made that argument yesterday. The problem is the worst GM in recent NFL history who made that deal just got fired, Bill O'Brien. So Jerry Jones,
deal, you're saying? I don't want to do that to you.
No, I'm not saying that, but if you're Bill O'Brien, you just can't say that a decision he made with Deshaun Watson is commendable, because then we got to commend him for all his decisions, and I'm refusing to do that.
Yes.
Here's the problem at hand. Relatively speaking, Cowboys fans, I'm not a hater. My experience is my expertise. 2020. Jerry Jones on Jason Witten. First, let me give you more Jerry Jones experience. I would hope he would not be anything ever but a Cowboy. That's what Jerry Jones said in February of 2020. Where does Jason Witten play right now? The Las Vegas Raiders. Jason Witten is far more beloved than Dak Prescott will ever be for the Cowboys unless Dak wins a Super Bowl. Jason Witten is a first-ballot Hall of Famer. Jason Witten is going into the Ring of Honor. Jason Witten can go into Jerry Jones' suite whenever he wants. And Jason Witten doesn't play for the Cowboys, even though Jerry said 7 months ago that he never wanted to see Jason be anything else but a Dallas Cowboy. I'm not going to say that Jerry Jones is a liar. What I'm going to tell you, America, is that Jerry Jones speaks his truth in this moment. And the truth changes. Marcellus, I believe, 55% of marriages end in divorce in America?
Hey, chill.
Something like that. But every time you get down to the altar, what do you say? Till death do we part, to love and to hold from this day on.
Is that what I said?
I think it's probably what you said. But the problem is, it's not that you was lying. It's that people meant it in that moment.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that Jerry Jones is a liar. But what I'm going to say is how Jerry Jones feels about Dak Prescott right now is not the same how Jerry Jones will feel when it's time to cut the check.
Oh, strong, especially when you went to the marriage place. I was like, damn, I gotta go home. I gotta renew my vows. till this runs out, baby. Not deaf to do his part. Jerry Jones is telling the truth. He's speaking his truth. Let me tell you why. Because Jerry Jones is saying this. If you're saying Jerry Jones is saying something now, but he would change his mind later, and you're using other examples, it's unfortunate you use that example. Because Jason Witten, you mean the ashes that remain of Jason Witten as a player. That is not Jason Witten. I played with Jason Witten. I don't know who this guy is right now, but he still has a uniform on. Congratulations. But even Jerry Jones, like, look, after a while, come on. like, this is the problem. You have to frame it properly, and you do a good job of having a good picture with a bad frame. Here's the thing. Jerry Jones said that the injury did not change how the Cowboys view Dak as their franchise quarterback. Remember, he said this last year. And remember, Dak was franchised. So remember going forward that if his views haven't changed of Dak, all that means is, worst case scenario, I'm going to franchise your butt again. Why do I know that? Because the contracts have been restructured for 5 of the Cowboys players quietly this offseason, including Tyron Smith. Why are you restructuring all these contracts? To save some cap room going forward for Dak Prescott's potential franchise tag. But here's my real issue, because I understand where it looks like elastic language, as they say politicians do so often. You talk out of both sides of your mouth, which one to trust. But Jerry is in a contract negotiation. Every time we get a soundbite from Jerry Jones, he's in a contract negotiation, but people like Acho want to give him a lie detector test. You got to understand, he can't negotiate against himself. So as much as he's giving Dak love, he has to have some reservation so he can have some wiggle room whenever he gets to the table with Dak Prescott. But in terms of Dak leaving the Cowboys, there's no way, because they view him in the same way.
Here's my problem with what you're saying is this, Marcellus. If Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott couldn't come up with the long-term deal before Dak was 1-3. Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott could not come up with the long-term deal when Dak Prescott was just 1 year removed from the playoffs. Jerry Jones could not come up with a long-term deal with Dak Prescott before Dak Prescott turned the ball over on his own 20-yard line in the second game of the season, the third game of the season, the fourth game of the season, and the fifth game of the season. He threw a pick 6 to the New York Giants. If Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott could not come up with a long-term deal before he broke his ankle, how in God's name you think they're going to do it now? Because the problem is, in Dak's mind, Dak thinks he is going to be as good as he ever will be, and he should. That's what athletes do. Peyton Manning, he didn't realize he was sorry. Everybody else did except Peyton. Remember the year they won the Super Bowl when he got benched? He still thought he was a dog.
You mean right after that 55 or the 50?
After the 50, when it dropped down to 19.
Well, do that. You can say that.
When it dropped down to
Jason Witten.
Athletes always think they are still going to be as great as they ever can be. Whereas although Jerry Jones is paying lip service, and you better, Dak Prescott's still recovering from surgery. Don't tell me I'm not going to be the same. Tell me, lie to me. Lie to me. The problem is, Marcellus, Dak is going to come to the table saying, hey, I'm still going to be as good. Jerry's going to come to the table and say, hey, bruh, you coming off an injury. There's going to be an even bigger impasse, an even bigger rift. That's why I don't think that Dak's the quarterback of the future.
No way is Dak Prescott going to hit free agency. Insiders are already saying the market for Dak Prescott as a free agent is robust. You can question that all you want, but that's what they're being told. Why are they being told that? Because you're going to have a young leader who will return to form, who has had the 3rd most wins since he's been a quarterback in this league. And let's talk about him, because a lot of times you bring up within the organization a comp of Dak and Tony Romo. Do you know that since Tony Romo was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, including Dak, they've never had a losing season, Dak and Romo. Only 2 losing seasons since Romo was the quarterback. And those names were John Kitna and Matt Castle, the years where they were the quarterbacks. Combined, 7 and 20 are the quarterbacks outside of Romo and Dak Prescott. And as I said, no losing seasons with those 2 names. So if you're Jerry Jones, you can't even trust yourself to go out there and find the next quarterback. I tell you why. John Kitna, Matt Castle, Brandon Wheaton, Kellen Moore, Brad Johnson, Kyle Orton, and Stephen McGee. All of y'all added up to losing records. And then people want to make this leap and say, well, you got him already. Andy Dalton is in the building. 2-win Andy from last year. Who knows what he does this year? But Andy Dalton came into this situation, and Jerry Jones approached Andy Dalton for one thing in mind. Come back home, reset who you are in the NFL, and get the Teddy Bridgewater plan, which is take whatever you get out of this, even if it's as a backup and you never step on the field, or now you're thrown into service. Take that and now rebuild who you are elsewhere. But that is not happening on the Dallas Cowboys roster. It's Dak's job.
Here's why it is happening. I was in the Cowboys working for them in 2016 and 17. And when Tony Romo got hurt in 2015, Marcellus, you could not tell any Cowboys fan, you couldn't tell Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, you surely couldn't tell me, and you likely couldn't tell you that Tony Romo wouldn't be the starter in 2016. But what happened? Well, even when they drafted Dak Prescott, because I was there.
I know what you're saying, but
even when they drafted Dak Prescott, you could not tell anybody that Tony Romo was not going to be the starter.
Yeah.
But Dak Prescott made Tony Romo dispensable. In the NFL, the only thing you can ever do in your life is preserve the ability to be indispensable. I need to make sure that at no point in time they can get rid of me. I have to do whatever I can. On TV, make yourself indispensable. At any job, make yourself indispensable. The problem is Dak made Tony Romo indispensable. My theory is Andy Dalton might be able to as well. You say 2-win Andy. I could say 1-win Dak. You say 2-win Andy. Instead, let me show you who Andy Dalton was through his first 69 career starts versus Dak. Wait a second. That's got to be a typo. Andy Dalton had more wins through his first 69 starts than Dak. No, that can't be right. Andy Dalton had more passing touchdowns in his first 69 starts than that can't be right. So maybe, Marcellus, just maybe, Andy Dalton is actually competent. Think about this. There are only 2 other offenses, I think, in the NFL that are better than the Cowboys as far as skill positions. So if you think that this Andy Dalton, who came in with no first-team reps, and against the Giants, yes, it was the Giants, but their defense is still good, led them on a game-winning touchdown drive. If you think that Andy Dalton might not make Dak Prescott dispensable, you got something else coming.
Man, we're going to sell tickets at a debate. I'm telling you right now, because you're saying strong things, but once again, great picture, bad frame.
Tell me.
Here's the frame that you have to look at Tony Romo through. He wasn't durable. Remember, 2012 was the last year Tony Romo played all 16 games. After that, it just kept going down to the point where you had to draft Dak, not as a high draft choice because you're not trying to supplant Tony Romo, but you're starting to whisper upstairs, if he get hurt again, we might have to do something because Tony Romo can't stay healthy, to the tune of now you're trying to move that to an Andy Dalton conversation. Here's the problem. You know what the frame of Dak Prescott is? He is durable. This is the first time he's missed a start since he's been a Cowboy. Matter of fact, as of today, he hasn't missed a start as a Cowboy. We have to wait for their next game. And that's why when you're talking about durability, insert that into your mindset when you have this conversation. On top of, oh, Andy Dalton's going to take over from Dak Prescott? How old is Andy Dalton? Well, if you give him money next year, he's going to be 33. That is not Dak Prescott. So Dak Prescott wins in not only age, availability, but inability. That's why Dak's their franchise
Let's get into round 4 because I got a couple more body blows for you. Cam Newton, is he durable? Would you say Cam Newton's durable?
Yeah.
He's not. He's not. Cam Newton was durable. Until he wasn't.
That's
Dak
right.
Prescott, he's durable until he's not. Cam Newton was durable 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015 till winning the MVP season. Cam Newton, complete clean bill of health until he got hurt. So, sure, Dak Prescott is durable, but now he's no longer durable. And that's the problem, Marcellus. We're going to look up at the end of the season, and we're going to be able to say this. Out of Dak Prescott has started 16 times 4, 32, 64, 64 plus another 16.
Do that, Texas, UT.
80. We're going to look up and say this. Dak Prescott could have played in 80 career games, and he's only played in 67.
That's what we're going?
That's what, at the end of this year, that's what we're going to be able to do. Dak Prescott could have played in 80 career games, and he's only played in 67. You can no longer make the claim, Marcellus, that Dak Prescott is durable because he has now gotten hurt. So if your biggest bartering chip is, wait, but Dak is durable, he's not anymore,
well,
unfortunately.
Hold on. Okay. I hate that you did this, but you did this. You weren't even an adult You were 17.
Here you go. Why he always bring up my age, America?
Well,
Why he always bring up my age?
It's 2008. I don't know. Were you 17, 18? Well, what would you do? But it's 2008, and I'm going to use you as a GM. Imagine I chose the GM of the New England Patriots in 2008.
Winning the Super Bowl.
And then he's watching the first game, and he's like, oh, look at Tom Brady. Man, how many Super Bowls we already got? 3? Oh, that boy good. Okay. Oh, he just got hurt. He's out for the year. Acho would sit there and say, okay, we got to back up with Matt Castle. I don't know about Matt Castle. He didn't come here to be Tom Brady 2.0. What? He won 11 games. Oh, Tom Brady, you're durable till you're not. You're out for the entire season. Meanwhile, we replace you with someone who wins 11 games. You know what? Maybe Matt Castle is the quarterback of the future for the Patriots. No, Acho, you're not a GM, and the Patriots didn't do that. That's the right decision. Tom Brady has been durable, was durable, had one injury, just like Dak Prescott.
Let's talk this. Let's talk this. Shout out to my producer for this note.
Y'all in his ear?
Let's talk wins above replacement. Because Matt Castle did win 11 games. And typically, if you were just an alien descending upon Earth and you saw that out of 16 you could win 11, you would say, oh, Matt Castle did amazing. But you have to compare Matt Castle replacing Tom Brady to the Brady standard. Prior to that, the Patriots had won, 3 Super Bowls? Prior to 08, the Patriots had won 12, 13 games. So Matt Castle was actually below the replacement, which was Tom Brady, whom he replaced. Here's the issue. Prior to Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott was 7-11 in his last 18 starts. 7-9 in his last 16. Prior to Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott went 8-8 the year before. So if I'm looking at wins above replacement, if all you're telling me, Marcellus, is that Andy Dalton got to win 7 or 8 games to make Dak Prescott replaceable, I think that's feasible.
I love that argument. Wins above replacement. The problem is, once I replace this quarterback, Dak Prescott, the younger version, the better version, with you, what's going to be the longevity of you continuing this pace?
That's good.
That's problematic if I'm looking at a 33-year-old Andy Dalton, who I think has some football left in him, but elsewhere. Because I got me a young talent that is... Dak Prescott last year had a career year for him. In a contract negotiation, you don't bring the whole team. You don't say, Zeke, come with me. Tyron, come with me. It's you, Dak. And then this year, he was on another career year pace. So that's who you're going to go in front of and say, now, I'm going to change you out. I'm going to exchange you for Andy Dalton. That's what you're not going to do. Even though if Andy Dalton has tremendous success this year, like Matt Castle did, I'm not going to allow myself to not think in projection and in future forecast.
Let me ask you a final question. You know Jerry Jones far, far, far better than I. You've been at this bartering table. Jerry Jones is a shrewd businessman.
Yeah.
Is Jerry Jones offering Dak Prescott more or less money following the injury than he offered Dak Prescott before the injury? I know an answer. I'm hoping for a non-biased answer.
I will guarantee that Dak Prescott gets tagged again because there's not going to...
What's the offer, though? Don't tell me about how it'll end up. What will Jerry Jones... Because I'm sure he'll offer a long-term deal. Will he offer more or less
than the 5 years, 35 before? If he's smart, he will, because then the TV contract kicks into play. You have another year on that, and Dak Prescott doesn't get what he wants, which is that short-term deal. But I'm going to tell you how it ends. It ends in tag again. We're going to be in the same position again next year, almost in the prove-it mindset that you are the same quarterback. You won't let him go to free agency, and Dak is not going to take the same deal or even a lesser deal. So we're at an impasse in that respect. Coming up, Aaron Rodgers is putting all doubters in check this season, but we'll tell you if his coach, Matt LaFleur, deserves some of the credit as well. Next, Speak for Yourself, presented by Hyundai.
Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Let's head to Green Bay, where critics were ready to toss Aaron Rodgers aside, both for his age and because the Packers drafted Jordan Love in the first round. Well, Rodgers has put all doubt to rest with 13 passing touchdowns to 0 interceptions, starting the Packers with a 4-0 record. He is now a very impressive 18-4, including the postseason, with head coach Matt LaFleur, who praised the quarterback yesterday, saying, quote, "I think our quarterback's playing at a really high level right now." Well, like he has his entire career, but he's playing really well, lights out. And we're just playing good team football. Anytime there's what's deemed a controversial decision or whatever, you've got to answer the questions. So, Big Bro Sell.
Yep.
Does Matt LaFleur deserve credit for Aaron Rodgers' dominant season?
Yes, he deserves credit, but I smell something fishy. For you just asking the obvious, which is, does a head coach deserve credit for someone playing well? What are you trying to really ask? I'm not going to say he deserves credit with emphasis. I'm going to say he deserves some credit. But I will give more credit to Aaron Rodgers in the sense of how he's responded to all these changes. In his second year in this offense, obviously you're more comfortable in your second year, returning year in any situation. Aaron Rodgers, knowing that the naysayers were on him because of his decline, whether it's exaggerated or not, Aaron Rodgers, in terms of team success matched with his numbers, was starting to go down. We saw Aaron Rodgers 1 year 4-3 as a starting quarterback. 1 year 6-9 as a starting quarterback, despite having numbers 16-6. Touchdown interceptions, 25-2, 26-4. And you're like, that's decline? But it wasn't adding up. Now, you could put some of that on Mike McCarthy, which I know you will. But at the same time, Aaron Rodgers wasn't Aaron Rodgers with shine. You could be a dull Aaron Rodgers. You could be a shiny, glossy Aaron Rodgers. And that's what we're seeing right now. So as I look at Aaron Rodgers, who's still in his prime, we talked about that earlier. Howie Long in the 2 elevators. His physical elevator may come down a notch or two, but his mental elevator is right there, if not surpassing even his physical abilities. So the great Aaron Rodgers has reminded the entire universe that he is still someone to deal with.
I think Matt LaFleur deserves a ton of credit, maybe even more credit than Rodgers. Here's why. I fervently believe a rising tide floats all boats. It's kind of that aphorism of if the whole economy succeeds, then individuals will have greater success as well. The Green Bay Packers economy is collectively succeeding. It's collectively having success. I've also started to think, Marcellus, if we dive into the weeds, maybe Aaron Rodgers actually has drawn the short end of the stick. Why do I say that? Rodgers' last 20 games under Mike McCarthy, 9-10-1.
Yeah.
Rodgers' last 20 games, regular season under Matt LaFleur, 17-3. If the Packers were 2-2 right now, if they were 1-4 right now, if they were terrible right now, you think we would be talking about Rodgers? We wouldn't. Not at all. But what we're doing is talking about Rodgers because not only is he balling, the team is balling. If Rodgers were having 13 touchdowns, no picks, he would beat Dak Prescott. A great season individually, but your team is struggling. So now we're asking, can Rodgers win despite the poorest play of the defense? I think Matt LaFleur actually needs more credit because a rising tide is floating all boats. Matt LaFleur has caused the entire Packers tide to rise. Aaron Rodgers is just the greatest beneficiary.
See, that's the problem because the narrative last year was they're winning with Aaron Rodgers, not because of Aaron Rodgers, not in spite. He wasn't that bad, obviously. But there was conversation of, why are we seeing a lesser version of Aaron Rodgers in this run-oriented offense? And Aaron Jones, obviously, respect to him and his greatness. And everyone said that they were paper champs in terms of, that's not a real team. They're going to get smoked, and we saw it twice against the San Francisco 49ers, once in the regular season, once in the playoffs. We saw Aaron Rodgers come out here in that California trip where he looked anemic against the Chargers and going against the 49ers. People were whispering and starting to yell, yeah, the team is doing great, but what about you? And it's weird how Dak Prescott does come into mind when you have these type of conversations. When Dak had the most team success, it wasn't because of him. Then he started to get his numbers, and then people started looking at the team.
Didn't he have an MVP vote that year? I think he did. I'm not trying to trap you. But, like, didn't he? That's a good point. It's just a good conversation overall. The year Dak Prescott was 13-3, the year that the team was best, Dak only had 23 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. I think he also had 6 rushing touchdowns. He got an MVP vote. This year, Dak was not in the MVP conversation. Exactly. He had phenomenal numbers, but he wasn't in the MVP conversation. Not because Dak was bad.
No.
Based on stats, if you want to look at it, but because Dak's team was bad. Aaron Rodgers is getting so much praise, not just because Aaron Rodgers is great, because the entire team is great. Marcellus, my coach told me this. I'll go to the University of Texas, 2008, and Will Muschamp, current head coach at South Carolina, he looks at us, and he's trying to convince us that football is a team game. He sits us all down in the defensive meeting room. Don't worry about being an All-American. Don't worry about being first team All-Big 12. If we win, you will win. I'm like, come on, coach, that talk is so cheap. He said something. He said 1990, the New York Giants, they won the Super Bowl. They won their second Super Bowl in 5 seasons. They had 7 Pro Bowlers. They went 13-3. 1990, Packers have 7 Pro Bowlers. They go 13-3. The next year, 1991, roster didn't really change. But the Giants went 8-8, missed the playoffs. No Pro Bowlers. Okay. See, what happened was they succeeded as a team. The Giants did. Super Bowl, 13-3, 8 Pro Bowlers. Everybody succeeded. Team the next year, 8-8, missed the playoffs. No Pro Bowlers. Aaron Rodgers is now also a heightened beneficiary of the team's success.
Yes, definitely all that true. But I'm glad I didn't go to UT because Coach told me something like that. We all win. No, we all ain't going to get drafted. So if I'm at UT talking about, are we undefeated? You know how many times undefeated teams have guys that just have to go work in the real world? Fair. It doesn't always go like that. So, Coach, I got to get my numbers as much as we got to get these wins. I always have to push back on coaches when they say that stuff. I'm like, all right, now, chill. Here's the thing about Aaron Rodgers extracting him from the team's success. And it's interesting looking at Aaron Rodgers' record in terms of his performance. Since 2009 and the next 8 years, Aaron Rodgers had a QB rating over 100 7 of those 8 years. Right now, his career QBR, his quarterback rating, is 103. Then all of a sudden, Mike McCarthy starts to really have his not so good influence over Aaron Rodgers in terms of the win-loss column. 97, 97, 95. 95 quarterback rating. You have to go back to Aaron Rodgers' first year as a starter to find that quarterback rating again. That's why people were like, wait a minute. Are you the same dude? Because you look like the rookie year version of you despite some counting numbers that were good. So now he gets the uptick, he gets the bump, not only in team success, but he gets it with his coach. But remember, Aaron Rodgers with the right situation, with the right coaching, not even helping him, just not getting in his way, is going to put up these type of numbers consistently. Coming up, we'll go next level with the debate that started yesterday. We finally here. Should all Hall of Fame NFL players be considered all
Get your blocks and gloves on.
Yes, next. Speak for yourself. Yes, next.
Talk to me. Is Russell Wilson already an all-time great?
Yes, he is already an all-time great.
Here's my problem, Marcellus.
He ain't got a championship.
How many all-time greats are there?
All-time greats?
Yes.
First of all, if you make the Hall of Fame, are you an all-time great?
Yes.
There's 400 people in the Hall of Fame. Is Russell Wilson top 20 quarterback right now, all time?
I don't think I can say yes right now is my issue.
Top 30.
Oh, sure, but you're going to say top 30 is, you're going to say 29 is an all-time great?
You just told me that
all Hall of Famers are all-time greats?
Yeah. You don't think so?
Breeze.
Oh, my God.
No, check, rock with me.
I'm not rocking with you. I'm rolling with you.
Peyton Manning, Tom Brady.
Oh, no, we got to go to, what? All Hall of Famers are not all-time greats?
No, I'm saying the all-time greats of this generation.
Man, get out of here. It's time to put an end to the debate that we started yesterday. All right.
Come up them ribs.
We're bringing in Fox NFL analyst LeVar Arrington for this. But Acho, you're up first. Oh, God. Should all Hall of Fame NFL players be considered all-time greats?
Again, first and foremost, let me go ahead and defeat the narratives. Acho, you only played 4 years. What do you know about being an all-time great? We having a conversation, my people, okay? If only all-time greats.
At your head already,
Nah, but you know how ignorant people is. So let me preface with the fact that, sure, my knowledge may be limited, but my opinion will not be. Marcellus, going in Texas growing up, in the Texas public school system, if you are top 10%, you get admitted to the University of Texas and all other Texas public schools. I think that number is down to top 8%. Now, if you're top 10 or top 8%, Marcellus, you are one of the smartest people in your school, bar none. You were top 10%.
Top 10.
You were top 8%. But if you were top 10%, that does not make you the salutatorian or the valedictorian. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that you are all-time smart. It means that you are smarter than the field. There are roughly 11,000 NFL players that have played 4 or more years. There are 400 Hall of Famers, 300 and change. Now, that is 2.5%. That does mean that they were better than everybody else. That is not the argument. But to be an all-time great, I think there's another line of delineation. Marcellus, you come up here every day, you ride to work in your Tesla. You do. Can I get a 2-shot? Let me look at my dog. He rides to work in his Tesla. He always brags about having 2 Teslas. He reminds me I have 3 Teslas. He reminds me I have a crusty Bentley. I don't know how someone has a crusty Bentley, but nonetheless, he reminds me I got a crusty Bentley. Marcellus, just because you got money doesn't mean you're one of the all-time wealthiest people. Now, you can walk down the street and you're probably richer than everybody else until you meet Bill Gates, who is an all-time wealthy person. Jeff Bezos, an all-time wealthy person. There are delineation markers. There are ticks. There are heights that I think all-time greats have that separates them in that conversation from all-time great Hall of Fame.
Okay, I liked your argument. I mean, it was a lot of swinging.
You like that joint?
A lot of swinging in the dark, but hey, when you can't see what you're doing, you just start swinging. Respect to you, but you guys got to watch Acho.
What I do?
Because he will change history to make it history.
You ain't got to test us?
History versus Acho and his story. The big difference here. Shout out to Ashford and Simpson, lead singer right there in the middle of us right now. Y'all get that reference if y'all Google it. All right, here we go. All-time greats are all Hall of Famers. Why? Because we're trying to say who's great in the great sport of football in all time. Now, what Acho did was not a cook of the book. It was an omission, maybe more of a logical fallacy at best. I'm trying to give him credit because, one, there are not 400 Hall of Famers. Two, there's not 300 and some change. I'm quoting Acho, Hall of Famers. There are only 294 players that are in the Hall of Fame. Now, what Acho wanted to say is guys who played 4 or more years. And this is what's the problem with so many statistics, that most statistics only talk about the survivors. Let's talk about the entire pool, which are the failures as well. So let's first start off here. 25,796 guys have played 1 football game or more. That counts. You too, Acho. You're one of those.
I played for 4 years.
Look,
okay,
that's my point. So, 2.
You played more than one snap?
Thank you. So you're qualified into the Hall of Fame, all-time great conversation. But like all of us on the screen right now, you didn't make it. I didn't make it. LeVar didn't make it. So now, what is that percentage?
Dang, why are you talking for me, Marcellus? You don't see my jacket? I can dream. Come on, go ahead.
You know what that percentage is? 1.1% of all football players that stepped on the field are all-time greats, Hall of Famers. But let's get deeper than that, because what I'm talking about is the survivors and also the failures. Every single year in high school participation, all of them dreaming to be football players, all of them dreaming to be Hall of Famers. How many players participate in high school sports, football?
1.7 mil?
Millions! Yes, over 1 million every single year. So if you look at it in that respect, why Acho is wrong is because now he wants to do something that the NFL wouldn't even do, which is try to create an all-time great conversation. What did the NFL do? All the NFL did was NFL 100. Why? Because it's our 100th year. What would the NFL do in 200 years of its existence? Have an NFL 200. But they will never rank the NFL, their all-time greats, Hall of Famers. So who in the hell is Emmanuel Acho to be the one to do it?
Because here's your problem, Marcellus, and you set your own trap. I thought I was in for something against the ropes, but then I realized you swung yourself until you was out of energy.
What you got?
1.6 million high school football players. But about, 50,000, 20,000, 30,000 get college scholarships. Now, if you were to look at that percentage, you'd be like, oh, that's only 1% or so. Here's the problem, Marcellus. Not every high school player that gets a scholarship is an all-time great high school football player. Just because you are in an elite percentage does not make you an all-time great. Your argument is this. 25,000 players in the NFL have laced up the cleats. There are only
got on the field.
Got on the field. There are only 290 or so that have gotten into the Hall of Fame. That's 1% or so. Therefore, you're an all-time great. I'm simply saying, wait a second, Marcellus. If 1.7 million people have laced up the field in high school, let's draw the parallel. You went to Columbia. You're smart.
Not a parallel.
1.7 billion went to play football in high school, but only 20 or so thousand get scholarships. Then that would say everyone who made it into that elite group of college scholarship is an all-time great high school football player. And you know as well as I do, that is flawed.
No, that's because you have not respected the maturation process and the evolution. You go from high school to college, college to pros, and let's get one more thing straight, because we got to start pulling some cards around here. Just to get drafted, just to be on the roster is not what I'm even talking about. I'm not even considering those guys, and we know there's a lot of those guys. I'm talking about the ones that actually not only made the team, but actually got on the field. And then within that, only 1.1% of those guys ever went into the Hall of Fame. I'm not the type of person that can't get into a room and then want to diminish that same room. Sounds like Acho does, but
see, here you go.
Sounds like Acho does, but go ahead.
I'm just having a conversation. I was never a basketball player, but we talk about LeBron and Jordan, and we diminish Danny Green because he can't hit a bucket.
But he's not an all-time great.
So what I'm saying is,
stay within all-time greats.
Just because we weren't there does not mean we can have the conversation.
Oh, no. I'm saying all Hall of Famers were great in their
They were great. They were great.
So therefore, if you want to go era to era, they were all-time greats, because no matter if you want to go all the way back to the 60s, if you want to go present day, if you were great, how are you not an all-time great?
Yeah, it's all subjective, right, guys? I mean, I do say if you make it to the Hall of Fame, you are an all-time great, bottom line, because it has been established that is the final resting place of the highest achievement, which is if you make it to the National Football League and you are deemed good enough to be on the ballot, and then you are able to be voted into the Hall of Fame, there's no debating that you're an all-time great. You know, there are people that have had the potential to be all-time greats, may have had better stats, may have had, you know, I'll give you a great example. You know, John Riggins only went to 1 Pro Bowl. You know, there are guys that didn't go to more Pro Bowls than other guys that won't go into the Hall of Fame, but yet and still they're in the Hall of Fame. So you can look at somebody being faster, more athletic. There are a lot of measurables that you can look at and say that this person may have been a better player or a better athlete or whatever, but it's subjective. So if you make it to the final resting place of accomplishment and achievement, I'm with you, Marcellus. You can start splitting hairs as to who's better and who isn't better in your all-time list. But if you rest in the Hall of Fame with a bust, then you've earned the right to be able to say I'm an all-time great, and no one could ever disqualify that.
The issue is that there's just a flaw in the logic. And yes, it's subjective, right? I'm not sitting here saying that these players weren't great. No. They were great. But I'm saying that there's another mark of delineation. Here's the thing, Marcellus. How many defensive linemen are on a field at one time?
Depends on 3, 4.
Sure, it's either 3 or 4.
Yeah,
How many defensive backs, LeVar, are on a field at one time?
It depends. It could be 4, it could be 5.
Absolutely.
It could be 6.
So based on that, you would think that those numbers would be reflective of the Hall of Fame numbers, right? There should be 5 more defensive backs in the Hall, roughly, maybe 4 per quarterback. But when I look at the Hall of Fame, there are 26 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. There's only 1 quarterback on the field at a time. But there are 34 DBs, defensive backs, in the Hall of Fame. There's 26 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame, but there are only 29 receivers in the Hall of Fame. But that's weird, because there are anywhere from 2 to 4 receivers on the field at one time. There are 26 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame, but there are only 31 linebackers in the Hall of Fame. Well, that's weird, because there are 2 to 4 linebackers on the field at one time. What's that tell us? That maybe, at least as it pertains to quarterbacks, you get a Hall of Fame bump that other positions don't get for whatever reason, probably because you're the quarterback in the face of the team, and probably because you have Super Bowls. I think that there are, for sure, quarterbacks that are in the Hall that aren't all-time greats. LeVar, Marcellus, we all. Eli Manning, phenomenal runs. 2 phenomenal runs in the playoffs. Some of the most memorable playoffs of all time. Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame. Eli Manning should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Is Eli Manning an all-time great? No. Eli's not an all-time great.
He's also not a Hall of Famer yet.
If he goes to the Hall of Fame, he has to be considered an all-time great.
But that's the problem. The problem is this. The problem is that y'all are saying a Hall of Famer makes you an all-time great instead of saying you're an all-time great. Regardless, y'all are letting someone else's opinion dictate your opinion.
But you're saying you don't, like, look at Bo Jackson, right? That would be a great example. If I'm looking at all-time great, I look at Bo Jackson as could have been an all-time great. Maybe you can make the argument that he may deserve to be in the Hall or not. But I can guarantee you, all them Hall of Famers that are in that Hall will sit there and be like, if Bo Jackson hasn't gotten nominated into the Hall of Fame, his name doesn't belong in the same sentence as mine. And it could be easily said that Bo Jackson was a better football player than most of those guys. So it's the final resting place, and whether we like it or not, it's subjective, and some guys may or not deserve to be there, but if you're there, you deserved it. You're an all-time great.
Yeah, I'm just seeing what Acho really wants is a ranking within that room. But I'm saying the designation of the accolade is once you're in that room, it's the Hall of Fame all-time great room. And everyone else is on the outside. If you want to say who gets at the head table and start to have numerical rankings, Acho, go ahead. The NFL won't even do that. And if you want to get paid to do that,
get paid to.
But no, I'm not mad at us doing our job. But that doesn't mean that that's actually an objective measure. If you were in that room, trust me, you're looking at everybody else outside differently, not inside. Coming up,
Indeed.
Lamar Jackson is giving defenses headaches every week. We'll tell you if he's the most dangerous player in the league. Well, he is the MVP. Next, speak for yourself.
Acho!
He always gets that in, baby. Getting close to panic time here in L.A., but I'm going to say, as an Angelino, that the Dodgers get it done tonight against the Braves. That's right. Coverage of Game 3 of the NLCS starts at the top of the hour here on FS1. Let's move on to Lamar Jackson, who is widely considered as one of the best dual threats in the NFL. Lamar's Ravens are on the road in Philly Sunday, and Eagles defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz is showing a lot of respect for the reigning MVP, calling him, quote, probably the most dangerous player in the league. So, Acho, is Lamar the most dangerous player in the league?
I'm going to say no, because I'm going to say that Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers are more dangerous than Lamar. To me, when I define danger, Marcellus, I say it like this. What can cause me the most harm? What can do the most damage? If I'm walking through the wilderness, right, and I look at an animal, that lion is dangerous because it can do damage to me. Lamar Jackson is the scariest player in the National Football League. He makes you scared the most, but he's not the most dangerous. Difference being this. Sharks kill 6 people a year. Snails kill 10,000.
Yeah.
Sharks are way scarier than snails. But snails actually are more dangerous. I am more scared of getting put on a poster, LeBron James coming down the center court and dunking on me. That is more scary. But Steph Curry and being a lethal three-point shooter is actually more dangerous because he can do more damage. What is more dangerous is Patrick Mahomes coming back from 3 double-digit deficits in the playoffs to win a Super Bowl. What's more dangerous, Russell Wilson on Sunday Night Football, 1 minute and 52 seconds left, coming back against the Minnesota Vikings, leading his team to a touchdown. What's more dangerous, Aaron Rodgers, 13 touchdowns, no interceptions, starting the Packers off 4-0. Lamar Jackson is scary, but I think there's a differentiation between being scary and being more dangerous.
Oh, I like that. I actually watch Peekaboo Kids every morning with my kids, and that came up as a fun fact.
Really?
I was like, damn, only 6 people died from sharks? I ain't scared of you, Jaws. But great take there, but I have to push back. He is the most dangerous, most scary, all whatever you want to say. And I tell you why. I really break it down simply by attributes. So Lamar Jackson is known for his lethal mobility. Like, no one is better in the NFL, I think, at any position. Anybody with that ball in his hand, like Tyreek Hill, maybe you want to go there, but basically, certainly at the quarterback position, no one's better with mobility. Now, let's talk about his arm talent. And everyone's going to start to sneeze and he's not. Who threw the most touchdown passes last year? Hello? Anybody? Anybody? Who was second in the pocket? Second in the pocket? Hold on, you're trying to tell me he is by far the best in terms of getting out the pocket and running around. And then in the pocket, no one trumped him in terms of what a quarterback's primary responsibility is, which is throwing the football. So if you're the best in throwing the football, at least by touchdown passes last year, and at best in mobility, you seem to me to be the most dangerous at that position. And let me give you one more reason why. Takes me back to, like, the physics of an athlete. When you see a big guy, immediately you do the calculus. He's going to be more powerful. I got to win in leverage. He probably is not as quick, not as fast. What happens when you see a big guy who's fast? You know who's seeing that? The entire NBA for the last, 17 years? It's called LeBron James. When you see someone who has the attributes that on paper actually don't go together, work together, you're the most prolific in the pocket, and you're the best out the pocket, that's why you're the most dangerous.
Here's the kicker. Lamar Jackson is dangerous. Let's not hear that. The issue is that word most. It's hard for me to say that he's more dangerous than these other guys. I'm glad you went basketball. I'm reminded of high school. I used to hoop back then. I was a 3-sport athlete, track and field, basketball, and football. But our crosstown rival, Marcellus, had 2 twins, Tristan and Trenton. And boy, they would embarrass you. Handles, they could do everything. But by my junior year, because I had played them freshman, sophomore, junior year, I realized one thing. only one of them can actually score. See, they both look really good, but then they put the shot up, and one's going in and one's going to miss. Field goal percentages were very different. They were both very scary, but only one was actually dangerous because one was going to do damage, the other wasn't. Lamar Jackson is going to do damage. That's not what we're saying. But when I'm saying who's going to do the most damage, give me A-Rod, give me Pat Mahomes right now, and give me Russell Wilson. Coming up, Uncle Jimmy will give us his thoughts on today's show. Jeez. Oh, this one about to be fun. What's up, Unc? That's next. Speak for yourself.
Before we go, let's bring in Uncle Jimmy. Oh, with your thoughts on today's show and my attire.
What it do, Unc?
I just want to get this week over with. This was positively the most horrible week in sports history. First of all, we had to watch LeBron James win another NBA title.
I enjoyed it.
And then we all saw what happened down in Dallas. Okay? And that was horrible. It was no joke. It was no jokes involved. It's nothing funny when the Dallas Cowboys win a football game. Okay?
Yeah.
And then I know what y'all thinking. Y'all thinking I'm going to be the most upset about the Chiefs losing. I'm not upset about the Chiefs losing.
Why not?
It comes with the territory. It comes with being a champion. I'm upset at the Raiders winning. Because when the Raiders win, then you start getting what's called Raider fans. The biggest, most delusional group of characters ever collected in one place known to mankind. Now, before you tell me I'm wrong, let me tell you something.
What's up?
My barber in Kansas City is named Anthony T.J. Jackson, the biggest Raider fan there is. How the hell you gonna be the biggest Raider fan living in Kansas City? This man just went and got Al Davis Jr. tattooed across his back. Tell me Raider fan ain't delusional. Nothing is more frightening than ignorance in action. That is Raider fan.
That's it for us. Coverage of Game 3 in LCS.